In a world
I'm
where
so
every
glad I
choice
found
comes
you
with a
tonight.
price, one story rises above fear, betrayal, and
This is
sacrifice.
wonderful, isn't
Through
it?
pain and courage, the characters discover that true strength is not about power, it's about protecting the people you love and never giving up hope. This story reminds us to value loyalty, kindness, and resilience even in the darkest moments. If this journey touched your heart, please leave one like and one share to support the channel and motivate more amazing stories ahead. Thanks for
Don't
watching.
pretend you don't know why
Have you
I'm
ever
here.
watched someone's life just completely fall apart in one single
Sarah,
moment?
this isn't what
Not
it looks
quietly,
like.
but in a crowded room full of people pretending not to look. Well, our story starts just like that. A fancy ballroom, 1,000 staring eyes, a husband dancing with the wrong woman, and his 7 months pregnant wife watching her world shatter. But trust me, what happened next is something nobody saw coming. Not the cheating husband, not his mistress, and definitely not the perfectly planned revenge that was already in motion. If you think you know how this ends, you don't. Stick with me, because this story, it only gets wilder. Most stories about the super rich begin with private jets and champagne overlooking a city skyline. But this story begins in a ballroom filled with people pretending to care about charity, pretending they had souls, and pretending not to watch a woman's life publicly implode. That woman was Catherine Hale. The scene was the Lakeside Foundation Gala at a Chicago hotel, and the chandeliers overhead glittered like a storm about to break. 1,000 guests filled the ballroom, wearing gowns that cost more than most people's yearly paychecks. Reporters hovered, influencers live-streamed their outfits, and the orchestra played something soft and elegant. But that elegance was shattered the moment Catherine saw her husband. I remember it perfectly. I was 7 months pregnant, exhausted and swollen, just trying to pretend everything was fine. There he was, Ethan, my husband, dancing with Madison Cole. To our wedding song, our song. Ethan Hale, the billionaire tech mogul, held his mistress with a tenderness he hadn't shown Catherine in months, maybe even years. Madison, with her practiced influencer smile, pressed her head to his chest. They looked like they were the real couple, as if Catherine didn't exist, as if the whole world belonged to them. And the whispers started to spread through the ballroom like a disease. "Is that his wife over there?" one guest whispered. Another asked, "Then who is the girl he's dancing with?" "That's Madison Cole," someone else murmured. "His very public, not-so-secret affair." And then the phones came out. Cameras zoomed in on Catherine, standing all alone by a marble pillar. She had one hand on her pregnant belly, the other gripping her purse so tightly her knuckles had turned completely white. Every single person watching knew the question going through her mind. It's a question we've all asked ourselves, whether we're rich or poor. What do you do when the person you trust the most betrays you in front of everyone? I felt humiliated, angry, and sick all at once, but mostly I just felt invisible, like I had been totally erased. Ethan spun Madison around as the music swelled. He never looked at Catherine, not even once. The guests just stared, the way people stare at a car crash, horrified but unable to look away. Grace Hale, Ethan's older sister, approached Catherine holding a small glass of water. "I am so sorry," she said softly. "I should have warned you. I saw them walk in together, but then I just froze." Grace had a dry sense of humor that always seemed out of place at these billionaire parties. But tonight, her voice trembled. She was angry, but her anger wasn't aimed at Catherine. "Grace, it's fine. I'm fine," Catherine said. "No, you're not," Grace replied. "No one would be. Ethan is spiraling, and my father is pushing him to make even worse decisions." She was talking about Jared Hale, the head of the family, a man who believed weakness should be destroyed, not comforted. He had despised Catherine from the start, calling her the accessory wife, just a pretty decoration. Suddenly, a hand touched Catherine's shoulder. "There you are," Jared Hale said. "I've been looking for you." His voice was cold and controlling, the voice of a man who believed he owned everything and everyone around him. "You shouldn't be standing alone," he continued. "People are talking, and you know how important our image is tonight. Investors are here," he added. "Investors," Catherine said. "That is what you care about. Well, not your son dancing with another woman." "Marriage is complicated, Catherine," Jared replied. "What matters is you carrying the Hale air. That is your role tonight. Look radiant, look supportive, and do not cause a scene." The words hit Catherine like a physical slap. Her chest tightened, but she refused to cry in front of him. "Excuse me," she said, before turning and walking away. Not quickly, but slowly and deliberately, with the poise of a woman holding herself together by a thread. She went into the ladies' restroom and locked herself in the farthest stall, the one with a mirror. Catherine stared at her reflection. Her dress was navy blue, Ethan's favorite color. It was a color she never liked, a color that made her feel washed out and invisible. "Who am I?" she thought. "When did I stop being myself?" She placed a hand on her pregnant stomach, and the baby kicked gently, reminding her she was still alive, still here, still a person. And then her phone buzzed. It was a text from Ava Torres, her best friend and lawyer. It said, "Are you ready?" Ava was a sharp, brilliant attorney who had been telling Catherine to leave Ethan for 2 years. With shaking hands, Catherine typed back, "Yes, tonight." Ava's reply came back instantly. "Good girl, leave quietly. I have everything prepared. Evidence, files, contacts, and safe route out of the city. Just follow the plan." For the first time in months, Catherine took a deep breath. And in that moment, clarity hit her like a lightning bolt. She was done. Done forgiving, done shrinking, done pretending. "I am leaving tonight," she whispered to herself. She wiped her eyes, fixed her hair, and stepped out into the hallway with a strange calmness that almost scared her. Back in the ballroom, the guests were still laughing. Ethan and Madison were still on the dance floor. Their bodies were pressed far too close together. Catherine walked to the coat check counter. "Leaving so soon, Mrs. Hale?" the attendant asked kindly. "Yes," Catherine said. "I am not feeling well." She put on her coat and walked toward the exit. But just before she stepped outside, she glanced back one last time. Ethan still didn't see her. But Madison did, and Madison smiled. That was the moment Catherine Hale knew her decision was the right one. She walked out of that gala with no goodbye, no warning, and no witnesses, and in the next 14 days, the Hale empire was going to burn to the ground. When Catherine stepped into the cold Chicago night, the orchestra faded behind her. The billionaire husband, the glittering party, the mistress in the designer dress, all of it felt like a bad dream she was leaving behind. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Ava. "Car is waiting on the side street. Black sedan. The driver is ours. Do not look back." Catherine walked down the stone steps, one hand on the railing, the other protecting her belly. Her heels clicked on the pavement like a countdown. She turned the corner and saw the sedan waiting under a street lamp. A woman in her 40s got out. "Mrs. Hale?" she asked. "Catherine is fine," she replied. "Alina, Ava sent me. Get in, please. We shouldn't wait around. The crowd inside loves drama, but they also love cameras." Catherine slid into the back seat. As the car pulled away, she finally let herself breathe out. It felt like leaving a stage where she had been performing for years. She didn't know who she was off that stage, but she knew she was done playing that part. The city lights blurred past. Lena glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Ava asked me to tell you something," she said. Her exact words were, "Remind Catherine she is not crazy, she is not overreacting, and she is allowed to leave a billionaire jerk, even if the world thinks she's insane." A small laugh escaped Catherine's lips. "That sounds like Ava." The laugh felt rusty, like a piece of machinery that hadn't been used in years. Now, to understand why Catherine vanished that night, you have to go back a few weeks. Back to the moment she finally walked into Ava Torres's law office and said the words she had been choking on for 2 long years. "Ava," Catherine said, "I think I want a divorce." Ava didn't gasp. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just closed the door, handed Catherine a tissue, and said, "Say it again louder." "I want a divorce," Catherine repeated. "Good," Ava said. "Now we can work." Ava Torres was never impressed by billionaire husbands. She grew up in a small apartment, and her immigrant parents taught her that respect mattered more than money. She had built her career protecting women who married powerful men, only to find out those men thought power meant they owned them. Catherine stared at the folder, feeling like she was looking at her own life on paper. Joint accounts, trust documents, prenuptial agreements, things she'd signed when she was in love, naive, and thought billionaire security, not control. Ava flipped through the pages. "Ava, tell me everything, no filters, no excuses for him. He wasn't always like this," Catherine said. "Or maybe he was, and I just refused to see it." She then told Ava about the early years. long before the fancy galas and private jets, back when Ethan was just a hungry entrepreneur with a rented office and a cheap suit that never quite fit right. He'd been charming, ambitious, and endlessly optimistic. He told her she was the only one who truly understood him, using words like team, partnership, and empire. Back then, Billionaire was just a dream, not their life. Catherine worked late designing small office spaces, while Ethan built his first real estate platform. They lived in a tiny apartment with peeling paint, but they were so happy. Then the money came. The first big deal, then another. And then came the IPO that turned Ethan from ambitious into a legend. Catherine said, "The first time we were invited to a gala, I actually cried when I saw my dress. It was red. I looked like myself, loud, bright, and alive." Everyone called them the perfect power couple, the handsome billionaire husband and his stunning architect wife. But slowly, something inside Ethan began to change. He started correcting her in public. "Don't say it like that. Don't laugh so loud. Don't mention we used to be broke. It ruins the mystique." He chose her clothes. He chose their friends. He chose which charities they supported and which galas they attended. Catherine stopped painting and honoring her own taste. The color red completely vanished from her closet. And then came the issue with having a baby. "We spent years trying," she explained. "There were appointments, needles, hormones, schedules. I blamed myself every single time it didn't work." Ethan never said it was her fault. But he didn't have to. She could see it in his eyes. When she finally got pregnant, she thought it would heal everything. The billionaire stress, the distance, the quiet resentment. Instead, Ethan just grew more distant. Ava leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Catherine, I need you to understand something. Having more money doesn't make a bad man better. It just gives him more tools to hurt you without any consequences. That gala world is his playground. It doesn't have to be yours." Catherine wiped her face. "If I leave, he'll destroy me," she whispered. "He controls everything. The accounts, the house, even my health insurance is through his company. I'm trapped." "No," Ava said. "You're not trapped. You're just entangled. And there's a huge difference. And entanglement can be undone with paperwork, strategy, and a whole lot of courage." Ava pulled out a checklist. "Here's what we are going to do. 1. You start documenting everything. Every text, every email, every time he threatens, belittles, or manipulates you. 2. You quietly make copies of all the financial documents. 3. You do not confront him until we have leverage." "Leverage?" Catherine asked. "Yes," Ava said. "With a billionaire, tears are not leverage. Evidence is." Back in the present, in the sedan leaving the gala, Catherine's hand tightened around her purse. Inside, besides her lipstick and phone, was a small flash drive from Ava. On that flash drive was a partial copy of Ethan's sins. Now we go back 1 week before the gala. Catherine sat alone in Ethan's home office. He was in San Francisco, or so he claimed. She knew better. Madison's Instagram stories always gave away his location. The office smelled of expensive leather and cold coffee. On the wall hung framed articles about the billionaire genius, the man who reshaped real estate with the push of a button. She opened his desk drawer with trembling fingers. "I knew I was crossing a line," she thought, but I also knew he had crossed so many lines I'd lost count. She found folders labeled with project names. At first, everything looked normal: contracts, investor pitches, legal memos. Then she saw it. A folder marked personal. Inside was a printed spreadsheet of huge payments to shell companies she didn't recognize, with notes scribbled in Ethan's handwriting. "Move investor funds here temporarily. Return before audit. No one will notice." Her stomach dropped. Further down the page, she found another note. It read, "If Catherine becomes a liability, execute prenuptial clause B. Freeze joint assets. Use mental health justification if needed." Her hand shook so badly she had to sit down. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a pre-planned attack. She pulled out her phone and snapped photos, page after page, document after document. That night, sitting alone in the penthouse, surrounded by marble, glass, and billionaire toys, Catherine finally realized the truth. "I wasn't married to a man anymore," she realized. "I was married to an empire, and the empire would not let me go without drawing blood." She sent the photos to Ava with a single text, "Is this enough leverage?" Ava's reply came back fast, "It's a start. Keep going, quietly." So Catherine kept going. She found hidden emails, risky side deals, and proof that Ethan was using investor money like his own personal casino, all while playing the part of the doting husband at every gala. Back in the car leaving the hotel, Catherine looked at the city one last time. It's funny, she thought. People think the shocking part of my story is that the billionaire lost everything when I disappeared. But that night, as I left the gala, I didn't care about his money. I just wanted my life back. The sedan turned off Lake Shore Drive and headed toward a quiet neighborhood. Ava was waiting there with a plan that would end the hellish marriage and expose the billionaire world for what it truly was. The night everything broke was just the beginning. Ava Torres lived in a brick townhouse on the quiet side of Lincoln Park, the kind of neighborhood where dogs wore little sweaters and people left pumpkins on their porches no matter what season it was. It was the total opposite of the Hale penthouse, and exactly the kind of place where Catherine thought she could finally breathe again, at least for one night. Lena parked the sedan in the back alley, far from the main street. We're here. Take slow steps, Catherine, and remember, no sudden phone calls, and don't log into anything with your name on it. Catherine thanked her and stepped out, feeling the cold wind on her cheeks. The townhouse looked warm and safe. Golden light spilled through the kitchen curtains. She rang the bell, and the door flew open. Ava Torres, there you are. Get inside before the neighbors start peeking. Ava hugged Catherine tight, careful of her pregnant belly, then guided her inside. Shoes off, water now, and sit before you faint. You look like you just walked out of a war zone. Catherine's voice was shaking, but she tried to be calm. It felt like that. Ava led her to the sofa, wrapped a blanket around her, and placed a glass of water in her hands. All right, first question. Did anyone see you leave? Madison did, Catherine said. She smiled at me. Of course she did, Ava replied. She looks like the type who gets paid to smile at funerals. Catherine actually let out a little laugh. It broke the tension for about 2 seconds. Ava grabbed her briefcase and pulled out a stack of folders. Lena will return the car and go home. You are staying here tonight. Tomorrow morning, we will move you to the cabin. How long can I stay here? Catherine asked. No more than 12 hours. I know it feels safe, but this place is too easy to find. Ethan knows I live here. Catherine's breath caught in her throat. You think he'll come here tonight? If he panics enough, yes. And Ethan Hale panics in very expensive, very aggressive ways. She sat beside Catherine. But don't worry, I have a plan. And Grace is helping. Catherine blinked. Grace? Ethan's sister? Yes. She called me, she said, and I quote, Ethan is a narcissistic hurricane, and Catherine is the town in his path. How can I help evacuate? Catherine laughed again, and this time it was real. That sounds just like Grace. But the relief didn't last long. Another kick from the baby reminded Catherine that time was running out. Later that night, near midnight, Catherine tried to sleep in the guest room, but anxiety kept her wide awake. She sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing her stomach, whispering to the life inside her. We're leaving him, she said softly. We're leaving all of this. I promise you we'll be safe. There was a knock on the door. Catherine flinched. Relax, Ava called out. It's just me. Ava stepped inside with her laptop under her arm. We have a problem. Catherine's stomach twisted into a knot. Please don't say his name. I can't handle hearing it right now. I wish it was just him, Ava said. But this is bigger, smarter, and way scarier. Ava set the laptop on the bed. The screen showed a dashboard Catherine recognized immediately. It was her prenatal health monitoring app. The one Ethan had insisted she use, the one he paid a fortune for. The one she thought was just for tracking fetal growth and her sleep cycles. Except the screen showed something else entirely. He's been tracking your vitals. He tracks your movements, your location, all of it, Catherine. He has full access to your medical data, and he used it tonight. But how? It is supposed to be private, protected. Private, your husband is a billionaire. Privacy is just a suggestion for people like him. Catherine's hands trembled. What did he see? Everything. Your elevated heart rate at the gala when you walked out. Your location changing. He knows you are not home, and he knows you are under stress. Ava clicked another tab, and he has already filed something with his legal team. She turned the screen toward Catherine, a psychological instability claim. He is preparing to argue that your stress levels prove you are mentally unfit for custody. Catherine's world tilted. He is trying to take my baby? Yes. And he is moving fast, which means we have to move faster. Catherine pressed both hands to her face. I thought this place was safe. It was until he weaponized your uterus against you. Ava's attempt at humor fell flat, but it was enough to keep Catherine from collapsing. Listen, we cannot stay here. He will send someone. Security, investigators, maybe even Jared. Wealthy men never show up alone. They send an entourage of morally flexible people in tailored suits. Catherine shivered. Where will we go? Grace is on her way. We leave in 1 hour. 1 hour later, headlights flashed through the back alley. Grace's SUV pulled up, slanted sideways, like she had taken the corner too sharp. Grace stepped out. Get in, ladies, we have a narcissist to outrun. Grace wore ripped jeans, a leather jacket, and the expression of someone who had stopped caring about billionaire etiquette years ago. Ava asked, "Did anyone see you?" Grace scoffed. "Please, I drive like a teenager fleeing curfew." They loaded Catherine into the back, wrapped in a blanket. Grace floored the gas pedal and the SUV shot forward. Catherine watched Ava's townhouse fade behind them. "I should feel safe, but I do not." Grace glanced back through the mirror. "That is because you are still in survival mode. But here is the good news. Survival mode means you are still fighting." Catherine stared out the window, watching streetlights streak by. "I never wanted a fight. I just wanted a marriage." Grace said, "You did not get a marriage. You got a public relations contract with a side of emotional neglect." Even Ava snorted. Grace continued, "But do not worry. Tonight is just a setup. The real escape starts at the cabin." Catherine touched her stomach again. For the first time, she realized her fears were not about losing Ethan. They were about becoming free. And freedom, she was learning, always had a price. But staying too long had an even bigger one. The highway stretched out before them like a dark ribbon. It twisted through the sleeping edges of Chicago and into the quieter roads of northern Illinois. Inside Grace's SUV, the heater hummed, the engine growled, and the three women sat in tense silence. Catherine Hale pressed her forehead to the cool window glass. Every mile that passed should have felt like distance from Ethan's world, but something in her gut whispered that danger was following them. "All right? Someone talk. Silence is making me nervous, and when I am nervous, I make bad jokes, and nobody deserves that tonight." Ava said, "You make bad jokes even when you are calm." "Exactly. Imagine me anxious." Catherine appreciated the attempt at humor, but her nerves were shot. "How far is the cabin?" 3 hours, give or take. It is secluded, barely on the grid, and has no security cameras. Which is good, because if it had cameras, Ethan could hack them and live stream us eating cereal. Ava checked her phone. "I disabled your prenatal tracking app, but knowing Ethan, he will not give up easily. He will guess you left the city. He might even guess you are with me. But he will not guess the cabin. Not yet." For the first time since the gala, Catherine let her eyes close. She imagined the lake cabin, the smell of pine trees, the quiet, the safety. But safety, she would soon learn, was just another illusion. 1 hour later, near the Wisconsin border, Grace slowed the SUV as they approached an old toll plaza. Only 2 lanes were open. Traffic was minimal. Just a few semi-trucks and a police cruiser parked off to the side. Ava sat up straighter. "Why is a cop car sitting at a toll at 2 in the morning? That is weird." Grace shrugged. "Maybe he is bored. Or eating donuts. Or bored while eating donuts." They rolled slowly toward the toll booth, and then it happened, disaster number 1. The police cruiser pulled out sharply and flashed its lights. A voice on a loudspeaker said, "Black SUV, pull over to the side now." Catherine's heart fluttered. "Ethan found us." No, not this fast." Grace hissed under her breath. "Okay, nobody panic. And Catherine, do not say the word Ethan. If he's involved in this, we do not want to give it away." Grace pulled over slowly. The cop approached, flashlight raised. "Good evening. License and registration, please." Grace handed over her documents, trying to sound bored. "Is there a problem, officer?" The police officer said, "Your tail light is out." Ava rolled her eyes, whispering, "We do not have time for this." The officer looked in the back seat. "Ma'am, are you all right? You look pale." "I am pregnant."
Just tired?
"Long night?" Grace muttered. "You have no idea." The officer studied them for a long moment. Catherine could feel sweat forming at the back of her neck. Finally, the cop handed back the ID. "Get the light fixed as soon as possible. Drive safe." He walked away. Grace exhaled hard. Disaster number 1 avoided. Barely. My heart just ran a marathon. They merged back onto the highway, but the chaos was only beginning. 90 minutes later, Grace turned onto a narrow forest road, headlights cutting through tall pines. The lake cabin was only 30 minutes away. Catherine finally felt her body loosen, the first hint of peace settling over her. Then the SUV shuddered violently. What the Ava asked, "Did we hit something?" Grace eased the car to the shoulder as steam rose from the hood. No, 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 no. This car is only 1 year old. Ava got out to look, muttering curses. Catherine stayed inside, breathing fast. Please no, please, I cannot handle another setback. Ava climbed back in. The radiator hose is snapped, completely severed, Grace whispered, sabotaged. Ava said, "There is a cut that looks intentional." Catherine's breath hitched. He did not follow us. He was ahead of us. Or someone working for him. Grace slammed her hand on the wheel. Okay. Disaster number 2. Check. We cannot stay here. There is no cell service and this road is empty, Grace said. The cabin is only 30 minutes. We walk. Catherine stared at them, stunned. Walk? I am 7 months pregnant. Grace softened. Sweetheart, I know, but we do not have a lot of options. We will go slow. We will take breaks. And if anyone comes down this road, we hide. Come on, you can lean on both of us. And so, at nearly 4 in the morning, 3 women walked through the forest. The darkness surrounded them on their way to the cabin. Branches cracked under their boots. The wind carried the smell of pine and damp earth. An occasional owl hooted in the distance. Ava tried to lighten the mood. Well, if you wanted a dramatic story for your baby shower, you are getting one. I want it on record that if we get murdered by woodland creatures or a narcissistic billionaire, I blame Ethan. They walked for nearly an hour. Catherine was leaning heavily on them, her back ached, her feet throbbed, but she pushed forward. I kept telling myself, one step at a time, one breath at a time. Finally, Grace pointed through the trees. There. See the lake? The cabin is just beyond it. Catherine almost cried from relief, but the universe was not done. As they reached the clearing, Ava froze. No, no way. She pointed at the cabin. The front door was wide open. A light flickered inside. Disaster number 3, Grace whispered. Someone is in there. Catherine felt ice crawl up her spine. He found us. Grace crouched low, scanning the area like she had tactical training. Ava grabbed a fallen branch like a weapon, whispering, "What do we do?" Grace whispered back, "We do not go in. We wait. We watch. We see who it is." They hid behind a large fallen tree, their hearts pounding as minutes passed. Then they heard footsteps. A figure appeared in the doorway, carrying a flashlight. Grace squinted. "Hold on, that is." The figure stepped into the light. It was Detective Marlon Knox. "Okay, ladies, you can come out. I know you are there." Ava stood up first, still holding the stick. "Detective Knox? What the hell are you doing here in the woods?" "At 4 in the morning?" Detective Knox answered. "What am I doing here? What are you doing here? I have been trying to reach you for hours." Grace helped Catherine stand. "Detective, how did you find us?" Detective Knox sighed. "Let us just say Ethan Hale has been making noise. Big noise. Enough that I got suspicious and pulled some strings. When billionaires panic, they leave fingerprints all over their crimes." She lowered her flashlight, her voice gentler. "You 3 need to come inside. We have a lot to talk about. And Catherine, you are not safe. Not yet." And so the cabin, which Catherine hoped would be her sanctuary, was not what it seemed. It was the site of 3 disasters in one night, and the start of something even more dangerous. Morning came too fast. Gray light crept into the cabin, touching the wood floors, the worn sofa, and the 3 women sprawled out like exhausted soldiers after a battle. Catherine had barely slept. Every sound, a cracking branch, the wind, an owl on the porch jolted her awake. But by dawn, she knew the truth. She wasn't running from a bad marriage. She was running from a war. And Detective Marla Knox was already pacing the small living room, with a mug of black coffee in her hand. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week, but she also seemed sharper than anyone in the cabin. This was a woman who came alive in chaos. "All right," Detective Knox said. "We need to talk about what's next. Ethan Hale isn't going to stop. He's already set things in motion I wish I hadn't seen." Grace rubbed her eyes. "What does that mean? Just say it plainly. All of us are running on 0 sleep and 1 cup of terrible instant coffee." "Speak for yourself, I had 2 cups, Ava said. Grace shot back, "Which explains why you're twitching like you drank jet fuel." Catherine managed a weak smile, but her chest felt tight. "Detective, what exactly is Ethan planning?" Detective Knox stopped pacing. She met Catherine's eyes, and then she said it. "He filed an emergency petition for protective custody of your unborn child." Catherine froze, whispering. She asked, "He what?" "He claims you're mentally unstable, a danger to yourself and the baby. He's arguing that as the father, he should have decision-making power until a court psychologist can evaluate you." Ava shot to her feet. "That is insane. Catherine is the most stable person here, and I'm being generous by including myself." Grace looked panicked. "He can't win that, can he? If Catherine is missing," Knox said, "if no one can find her to testify, if his lawyers flood the court with fake medical records." She looked at Catherine with painful honesty. "Yes, he can." Catherine swayed, and Ava grabbed her hand. "Breathe. You need to breathe. He wants to take my baby. He told me she was a miracle. He said whatever you needed to hear, Catherine." Knox cut in. "Men like Ethan don't want children. They want a legacy. They want control. They want power. And he's terrified you took his power away the second you walked out of that gala." Catherine sank onto the sofa, holding her stomach as if she had to protect the baby right now. Grace sat beside her. "We'll fight this. We won't let him win." "There's more," Detective Knox said. Ava groaned. "Of course there is. Why wouldn't there be? Bring on disaster number 4. "Catherine," Knox said, "you need to know the truth about Jared." The name cut through Catherine like a cold knife. Jared Hale, Ethan's older brother, had been dead for 13 years. Everyone said drowned falling from a boat on the family's lake property. Catherine heard the tragic story when she was engaged. The Hales always spoke of Jared like a ghost that haunted their money. Catherine swallowed hard. "What about Jared?" Detective Knox sat down across from her. "The accident wasn't an accident," Grace gasped. "Marla, what are you saying?" "I'm saying Ethan knew more about Jared's death than he ever let on. A week before Jared drowned, he and Ethan had a huge fight. Old staff members said it was brutal, and Jared kept telling people he was about to expose something big." "Expose what?" Ava asked. "No one knows. That's what I'm trying to figure out. But here's the part you need to hear, Catherine." Knox lowered her voice. "Ethan has been using the same pattern with you that he used on Jared right before he drowned." Catherine went stiff. "Patterns? What patterns?" "Surveillance, isolation, psychological pressure. Quietly messing with your medical records, controlling your doctor's appointments, even changing your insurance access. It's exactly what he did to Jared." A cold chill ran down Catherine's spine. "Why? Why me?" "Because you got too close," Knox said. "You married into a family drowning in secrets, and then you got pregnant. You became a variable Ethan couldn't totally control. He's predictable in one way. When he can't control someone, he tries to destroy them." The world felt like it was tilting. This was the second time she'd thought she was safe. First, when she left the gala. Second, when she reached this cabin. Both times, the truth hit her harder than before. Ava knelt in front of her. "Catherine, listen to me. Leaving him was the smartest thing you ever did. But we need to be smart now, too. Which means we need a plan before he finds this place," Grace added. Detective Knox nodded. "Exactly. He's already hired 3 private security firms. If any of them figure out your route, they will search every single cabin near this lake." Catherine forced herself to sit up straight. "Then we don't stay. We move again, somewhere he would never think to look." Ava looked at Grace. "Please tell me your family owns a secret bunker somewhere." "No bunker," Grace said, "but my aunt in Michigan has a goat farm." "A goat farm? That's your big idea?" "It's secluded. No cell service, no neighbors. And goats don't talk." Catherine almost laughed. "Almost. It could work. At least until we can figure out how to stop him legally." "I can buy you some time," Detective Knox said. "I can challenge his emergency petition. But Catherine, you have to promise me something." "What?" "When things get hard, when you get scared, when he tries to manipulate you again, you cannot go back to him." Catherine blinked. "Detective, I would never." "People do. It's common. Fear makes old cages feel safer than freedom. But if you go back, even one time, Ethan wins. And if he wins, you lose everything." Catherine touched her stomach. "I will not go back, I swear." Detective Knox nodded. "Good, because we are about to start a storm Ethan can't predict." Catherine stood up, even though her legs were shaking. "Then, let's go before he finds us." Grace grabbed the car keys, Ava grabbed her backpack, and Detective Knox secured her badge. None of them noticed the glint of metal outside the cabin window. None of them saw the drone hovering in the tree line. None of them heard the quiet hum of its propellers as it captured their faces, one by one. But Ethan did. and as the women walked toward Grace's backup truck, the drone sent a single location ping to Ethan Hale's private server. He smiled when he saw it. The game was on again. The forest road leading away from the cabin looked different in the daylight. It was less scary than the night before, but just as dangerous. Catherine sat in the back of Grace's truck, an old blue pickup that rattled like it was held together by hope and rust. Every bump shot up her spine, but she ignored it. She believed today was the day she would finally get ahead of Ethan Hale. She was wrong. Inside Grace's truck, Grace said, "Okay, new plan, Michigan goat farm. Then we build legal walls so high Ethan will need a miracle to get through them. Steps 1 through 5, easy. Step 6, try not to get headbutted by a goat." "I got headbutted by a goat once," Ava said. "Worst date of my life. Why was a goat on your date?" "Focus, Grace." The humor helped for a second, but Catherine's nerves tightened again every time she felt her baby move. Detective Knox was in the front passenger seat, phone pressed to her ear, her voice low and sharp. "No, I need that petition stopped immediately." "No, you listen to me. A billionaire demanding emergency custody of a child that isn't even born yet is suspicious as hell. If we let this happen, we are setting a dangerous precedent for every woman in this state." She hung up and sighed. Ava leaned forward. "Bad news?" "Not yet," Knox replied. "But the judge on the case is someone Ethan's father donates to, regularly. And by regularly, I mean an embarrassing amount." Grace groaned. "Cool. I love that for us. Love living in a country where money buys everything but basic human decency." "We still have time," Knox said. "As long as we keep Catherine hidden and out of Ethan's reach, we can take his case apart piece by piece." For a moment, Catherine felt a flicker of hope. This was her second false victory, her second time thinking she was safe. Sunlight sparkled on the lake as they drove by. Birds flew out of their way. "If we can just get to Michigan," Catherine said, maybe I can breathe again." But she had barely finished the sentence when Ava stiffened. "Grace, slow down." "Why?" Ava pointed through the windshield. "Because that is not good." Ahead, blocking the narrow forest road, was a black SUV with tinted windows. Grace slammed on the brakes. "Are you kidding me? Out here? It's 7 in the morning." Detective Knox unbuckled her seatbelt. "Everyone, stay in the truck." A man stepped out of the SUV. It wasn't Ethan. That almost would have been easier. This man was taller, bigger, and dressed in private security gear. Knox whispered. "Detective Knox, that's one of Ethan's contractors. I've seen him before. He's not here to talk." Ava said, "Oh, great. Just what we needed. A walking refrigerator with a gun." "Ava, be serious," Knox replied. "Catherine, stay low." Detective Knox got out of the truck, hands raised with her badge visible. "Chicago PD, identify yourself and state why you're blocking this road." The contractor replied, "We are conducting a private search operation. Step aside." Knox stood her ground. "This is a public road. You have no jurisdiction." The man repeated, "Move." The man's cold stare made Catherine's blood run cold. He wasn't there to negotiate. Grace whispered urgently, "Ava, call 911. Ava glanced at her phone, no signal. "Of course not," Grace muttered. "Why would today be easy?" The contractor stepped toward Detective Knox. "You are interfering with a high-priority retrieval." Knox shot back, "Say the name." "If you are looking for Catherine Hale, you are violating state and federal law." He just said, "Step aside." Detective Knox didn't move, and Catherine saw the contractor's hand shift. It moved toward his belt, but not for a gun for restraints. He was going to take her. Catherine whispered, "Grace, back up. Turn around now." But before Grace could move, another SUV appeared behind them, blocking the road completely. "This is bad," Ava said. "This is really, really bad." Grace added, "We're boxed in. What do we do?" Detective Knox yelled without turning, "We fight." And then everything exploded. The contractor lunged, but Knox intercepted him, twisting his wrist and slamming him onto the truck's hood as they struggled violently. Grace floored the gas. She rammed the SUV in front of them, but her truck was too old and the other vehicle too heavy. The truck just bounced back. Ava grabbed a wrench from the glove compartment apparently. Grace kept one for emergencies and climbed halfway out the window. "I swear, if this guy touches us, I'm reintroducing him to gravity." Catherine could barely breathe. Her worst nightmare was happening right here, in the woods, where no one could help. Another contractor got out of the rear SUV and started walking toward their truck. Grace panicked. "We need to get Catherine out now." Detective Knox was still fighting the first man. Stay in the truck, but it was too late. A loud crack echoed as a huge tree branch snapped and crashed onto the hood of the first SUV, sending debris flying. The contractors ducked for cover. Seizing the distraction, Knox tackled the first man to the ground. Grace shouted, "Catherine now, out the side, go!" Ava helped Catherine out of the passenger door. Her legs could barely hold her, but they ran, or rather, Ava half-dragged her into the trees while a contractor followed. Ava yelled over her shoulder, "Run, Catherine! I swear on my fourth cup of coffee, you better run faster." They crashed through branches, leaves whipping at their faces. Catherine's lungs burned, and her baby kicked wildly, sensing the danger. They reached a steep slope, nearly falling down the hill. Behind them, she could hear shouting and the revving of engines, a struggle she couldn't see. Ava pulled her behind a fallen log. "Breathe," she whispered. "Do not move." They crouched there, trembling, as Catherine pressed a hand to her stomach. "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." Then the forest went quiet, eerily quiet. Ava whispered, maybe they left." For a moment, Catherine actually believed her. It was her third moment of false safety, her third illusion of rescue. Then a voice echoed from behind them, "Found you."
Ava spun around as Catherine froze. A contractor stepped forward, scissor raised.
A gunshot ripped through the forest, and the contractor dropped. Detective Knox appeared behind him, breathless, her gun drawn. "Get up,
"Both of you."
we are leaving now." Grace sprinted up behind her, limping, with blood on her arm. "Trucks totaled," she said, "but their SUVs are not." "Good," Knox replied, "steal one." And so they, three women, an injured detective, a furious attorney, and a terrified pregnant woman, piled into Ethan Hale's security vehicle and drove straight for the Michigan border. The stolen SUV sped down the back roads toward Michigan. Its engine growled like an angry animal. Catherine sat in the back, cradling her stomach, whispering to her baby, who kicked anxiously. Grace drove with both hands gripping the wheel, her injured arm bleeding through her jacket. Detective Knox sat in the passenger seat, wiping blood from her forehead, her jaw tight and her eyes focused. Ava kept looking over her shoulder, checking the road behind them. No cars, no drones, no psycho-billionaires. "I hate to say it, but are we actually safe for once?" Grace snorted. "Don't jinx it. You have terrible luck. Remember the goat incident? That goat was hostile, and I stand by my actions." Despite the humor, Catherine couldn't shake the deep sense of dread. Her heart hammered against her ribs. For the first time since the gala, she dared to ask, "Detective, you said Jared wanted to expose something Ethan was hiding. What was it?" Detective Knox didn't answer right away. She just looked out the window as if waiting for the right moment. Grace spoke up. "Marla, she deserves to know." "I know," Knox replied. I wanted us to be in Michigan first." Ava asked. "Why? Because bad news sounds better out of state. Because once I say this, there is no going back," Knox explained. "Catherine's entire world will shift, and I'd like her to be on the right side of the state line when it happens." Catherine swallowed, her fingers tightening on her knees. "Tell me, please." Detective Knox finally turned around in her seat. "The truth is, Jared Hale didn't drown by accident, and he didn't drown alone." Catherine stiffened. Grace whispered, "Oh my God." Ava just said, "Okay, wow, that's big." Catherine asked, "What do you mean he didn't drown alone?" "I mean someone else died with him." Catherine's breath caught in her throat. Detective Knox continued, her voice steady. "The original case files were sealed. Very few people ever saw them. But last night, after I learned Ethan sent his contractors, I forced an emergency review. I found something horrifying." Grace slowed the SUV. "Marla, what did you find?" "Jared wasn't alone on that boat. There was a second body." Ava blinked. "A second body? Who? A woman?" Catherine felt an icy chill slide down her spine. "A woman?" Detective Knox nodded slowly. "Her name was Abigail Lane, 27 years old. She worked at a local nonprofit. She and Jared were in a relationship the Hale family didn't approve of, so they kept it a secret." Grace guessed. "Let me guess. The Hales buried the story completely. They paid off officials, hid the evidence, and rewrote the entire narrative." Abigail's family was threatened into silence. They were told to say she just left town, that she cut all ties. But she didn't. She died that night. Catherine's stomach twisted into knots. "What does this have to do with Ethan?" Detective Knox took a deep breath. "Everything." The SUV hit a bump. No one said a word. "Ethan wasn't just present the night Jared died," Knox continued. He was on the boat, Ava gasped. Grace slammed her fist on the steering wheel. You have got to be kidding me. Catherine's voice trembled. Ethan was there? Yes. Witness statements taken before the cover-up said the brothers were arguing. Loudly, violently. Abigail tried to step between them, and the boat tipped. Catherine covered her mouth with her hand. So Abigail fell in? They all did, Knox clarified. But Jared and Abigail never came back up, Grace asked. And Ethan? He was pulled out of the water by staff who arrived just minutes later. And from that moment on, the hail scrubbed the story completely clean. Ava was stunned. You mean they let the world believe Jared just fell in drunk and drowned? Yes, Knox confirmed, even though Ethan was the last person to see him alive. The SUV suddenly felt much smaller, crushed by the weight of this truth. Catherine leaned her head back, staring at the ceiling. He told me Jared was reckless, she said. He told me Jared caused his own death. He told everyone that. It was easier than facing the truth. Ava whispered, but why hide Abigail's involvement? Why erase her completely? Detective Knox's voice softened. Because Abigail was pregnant. The silence was complete and shattering. Catherine felt her vision start to blur. Pregnant, she whispered, the word barely audible. Yes, and Jared was planning to announce it. He was going to name her, claim her, and expose the family for trying to keep them apart. Ava pressed a hand to her forehead. Okay, I'm sorry. My brain just exploded. Give me a second. Grace's voice was ice. So Ethan killed them to protect the family? We can't prove intent, Knox said. We may never know if he pushed Jared or if it was an accident. But we do know this. When Jared and Abigail went overboard, Ethan didn't jump in to save them. Nausea rose in Catherine like a tidal wave. And now he's doing it again, she choked out. To me, to my baby. Detective Knox met her gaze. Yes, because the moment you became pregnant, if you walked away, you became a threat, able to expose him just like Jared tried. Catherine pressed both hands to her belly, shielding her child from the monster who'd taken so much. Grace spoke quietly. Catherine, you didn't marry a broken man. You married a dangerous one. Ava added, and now we're cleaning up the mess from his oldest secret. Catherine's voice trembled. What if he hurts us like he hurt Jared and Abigail? Detective Knox turned, her eyes locked on Catherine's with a fierce certainty. I will not let that happen. I swear it. But just as she spoke, Knox's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and all the color drained from her face. Ava saw it first. Uh-oh, that's a bad face. That's your serious bad face. What is it? Detective Knox looked right at Catherine. Ethan just filed a second emergency petition. Grace asked, on what grounds? On the grounds that Catherine Hale has been abducted by 2 women and a rogue detective and is in immediate danger. Ava threw her hands up in disbelief. Oh, come on. We save her and we get branded kidnappers? How rude. Grace deadpanned. We're officially fugitives. Love that for us. Catherine's heart pounded in her chest. What does that mean? Knox explained. It means every cop from here to Detroit is looking for this SUV. We can't go to the goat farm. It means Ethan just turned this into a statewide manhunt. Catherine closed her eyes as the world spun. This was about more than survival. It was about truth, legacy, and a family secret that was ready to kill again. Catherine, listen to me. Catherine opened her eyes. If we're going to beat Ethan Hale, Knox said, we need to find out what Jared died trying to reveal. Grace added, and we need to find it before Ethan does. Catherine looked out the window as the Michigan border signs flew by. For the first time, she wasn't just running away. Crossing into Michigan should have felt safe. Instead, it felt like walking deeper into a storm without a map or shelter. Catherine pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the stolen SUV, her breath fogging the window. Her whole body just ached. From the exhaustion, the fear, and the weight of a secret she never wanted. Jared didn't die alone. Abigail was erased. And Ethan was there. Grace drove with intense focus, sticking to back roads to avoid the highways. Ava scanned the horizon every few seconds, while Detective Knox kept refreshing her phone. The tension in that car was a live wire. Ava finally broke the silence. Okay, I know this is probably not the time, but someone has to say it. Catherine, your baby already has a more dramatic backstory than 90% of all movie characters I have ever watched, Grace muttered. Ava read the room. Ava shot back. I am reading it. The room is terrible. I'm providing comedic relief because otherwise we are all going to cry. Catherine managed a small, weak smile. Humor was the only thing holding her together. Detective Knox finally spoke up. "We need to stop. I want to check the maps, and Grace's arm needs to be wrapped properly."
"I'm fine,"
Grace insisted.
"Your sleeve is soaked through. You're not fine."
Grace sighed dramatically but pulled into a remote nature area. A narrow dirt path led into dense pine woods as the SUV rolled to a stop. Catherine got out slowly, breathing in the cold air as her baby shifted inside her. "I'm okay. I just need a minute." Detective Knox opened the trunk to find a first aid kit, while Grace leaned against a tree, wincing. "If I get tetanus from this mystery security guy, I'm sending Ethan the bill," Ava added. "You should bill him for emotional trauma, too. And gas money. And the concussion I got from his goon earlier." "You did not get a concussion," Grace said. "Well, I felt like I deserved one." Catherine walked a little deeper into the pines, her feet sinking into the soft needles. The woods were quiet, too quiet. Sometimes silence was peaceful. Today, it felt like it was holding its breath. "Detective," she said, "you said we need to find what Jared was trying to reveal. But where do we even start?" Knox replied. "The last place Jared went before he got on that boat." Grace frowned. "Which was where?" "A cabin," Knox said. "A Hale family property in northern Michigan. It's private, not on any maps. And I have a strong feeling Jared hid something there before he fought with Ethan." Catherine shivered. "Do you think Ethan knows?" Knox shook her head. "No, if he thought Jared left evidence, he would have bulldozed that entire property years ago." Ava chimed in. "So we drive there and break in?" Grace shrugged. "We're already felons, might as well add burglary." Catherine opened her mouth to say something but froze. A crunch behind them. Not a branch, not an animal. Footsteps. A man stepped out from the tree's tall, dark jacket, blank expression, and Catherine knew him instantly. He was one of Ethan's original security guards. "He found us," she whispered. The guard lifted a taser. "Oh, run!" Ava screamed. The group scattered. A crackle of electricity shot past Catherine's ear as she dove behind a tree. "Spread out! Don't cluster!" Knox yelled. Grace shouted, "He's not alone. I hear two more." Another man appeared on the other side of the clearing, blocking Ava's path. "Oh, come on again? Seriously?" Detective Knox fired a warning shot into the air. "Back off. This is police jurisdiction. You take one more step." And a third man appeared behind her, grabbing her arm and twisting the gun from her hand. "Marla!" Grace screamed. The world exploded. Ava launched herself at the second guard like a wild animal, swinging a heavy pine branch. "Touch her again, and I swear I'll hit you so hard you'll forget your own social security number." Grace kicked the first guard in the knee, sending him stumbling. Catherine turned to run, but the third guard grabbed her wrist. "Mrs. Hale, your husband is worried. You need to come with us." "No, let me go." Her heart hammered as her baby kicked wildly. She pulled back with all her might, but he held on. "We can do this the easy way, or the hard way." Catherine shot back, "I choose neither." She twisted, remembering what Knox had taught her about shifting your weight. She slammed her elbow back into the guard's ribs. He grunted a small victory. Then a taser cracked behind her. Catherine felt the sting, not on her skin, but so close the sound ripped through her. She stumbled, her knees giving out. Grace screamed her name. Ava shrieked, "Don't hurt her. She's pregnant, you absolute fossil-brained donkey." Detective Knox punched the man holding her and reached for Catherine. "Stay with me, Catherine. Stay upright. Keep breathing." But Catherine felt dizzy, her vision blurring. Her baby kicked once, hard, and then everything went sideways. "No," she whispered. "Not now, not now." A guard lunged for her again, and then a thunderous blast echoed through the woods. The guard jerked forward and just collapsed. Grace stood behind him holding a flare gun. "Back off. I'm not armed, but I'm very creative." The other guards hesitated as a siren wailed in the distance, getting closer. "They called in local units. Go now," Knox yelled. They sprinted back to the SUV, half-dragging Catherine. Ava shoved her into the back seat. You're okay, stay with us." Grace jumped in, slammed the door, and the engine roared to life. Detective Knox yelled, "Seatbelts, now." They peeled out, the forest becoming a green blur. But Catherine was fading. Something's wrong. Ava pressed her fingers to Catherine's wrist. Pulse is fast, breathing is shallow. Grace pushed the accelerator. "We need a hospital." "No," Knox countered. "If she goes to a hospital, Ethan will find her in 20 minutes. She can't breathe, Marla." Catherine clutched her stomach as a sharp pain ripped through her. "The baby," she gasped. Something is wrong with the baby. It was real terror, bone deep. This was it, her darkest moment, the one where she lost everything, including the child she risked it all to save. There's a private midwife clinic 10 miles from here, Knox shouted. Off the grid, no electronic records. Turn left after the next crossroads. Grace swerved hard. Ava squeezed Catherine's hand. Don't you dare leave us, okay? We came this far. We are not losing you now. Catherine fought to stay awake. She fought to breathe. She fought for her baby. Please, she faded. Please don't let him win. The SUV tore through the Michigan countryside, carrying 4 women to the only place left that could possibly save Catherine and her child. The SUV flew down a narrow Michigan road, bouncing over potholes as Catherine drifted in and out of consciousness. Her breaths were shallow. Her hands clutched her stomach, praying the pain wasn't what she feared. Ava just kept repeating, "You're okay, you're okay, you're okay," as if saying it enough would make it true. Grace's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as Detective Knox barked directions like a commander. Next left, then straight for half a mile. The clinic's a red barn on the right, you can miss it. Grace saw it first, a small converted barn with a hand-painted sign. Private maternity center. By appointment only. No digital records, perfect. Grace slammed the brakes and the SUV skidded to a stop. 2 midwives ran out. "Who's in labor?" one yelled. Ava shouted back, "Not labor, panic. Something is wrong. Get her inside now." They rushed Catherine inside, where the air smelled of lavender and antiseptic and soft lights hummed. It felt peaceful, safe, and warm, everything Ethan's world was not. Catherine's voice trembled. "Please, help her. My baby, something is wrong." A midwife placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "We will. You are safe here, I promise." Detective Knox, Ava, and Grace were ushered into the hallway. Ava paced like a caged animal. Grace sat rigidly, holding her injured arm. Knox stared at her phone. Her jaw clenched, ready to fight the entire world if she had to. 10 long minutes passed before a midwife stepped into the hall. "She is stable. The baby is okay. She is not in premature labor. The pain was from extreme stress and adrenaline shock. She needs rest. We're keeping her on monitors." Ava collapsed into a chair, finally letting herself breathe. "Okay, good. I can breathe again." Grace wiped tears from her eyes with her good arm. "I swear, this baby is going to be born with a full resume." Detective Knox exhaled slowly. "I need to tell Catherine the rest of what I found. It can't wait anymore." They went back into the small birthing room. Catherine lay on a bed, pale but stable, her monitors beeping softly. She opened her eyes as they approached. "Is this the baby?" The midwife smiled. "Healthy, strong, and a little annoyed, I might add." Catherine let out a weak laugh, the first sound of relief she had made in days. Detective Knox stepped closer. "Catherine, I need to finish telling you what Jared discovered before he died." Catherine nodded slowly. "I am ready." Knox continued. "Jared knew the Hale family was laundering money through multiple non-profit foundations. Abigail worked at one of them. She found forged documents, names of donors who didn't exist, and programs that were just shells to move funds overseas. She didn't realize how deep it went until she confronted Ethan about it." Catherine whispered, "And Ethan silenced her, or helped create the events that let the family silence her," Knox corrected. "We may never know for sure. But Jared wanted to expose the entire scheme. He planned to go to the authorities the following week." Ava muttered, "And then the boat trip happened." Knox said, "Yes. And after that night, the family destroyed everything. Records, witnesses, all the evidence." Cass's eyes widened. "Something survived?" Knox nodded. "Jared kept a journal, a long one, written over months. It has notes, timelines, names, dates, copies of the documents Abigail brought him. He hid it in the one place he believed Ethan would never look, the remote Hale cabin in northern Michigan." Grace asked, "So it's really there?" "Yes," Knox said. "And if we find it, Catherine, it will destroy Ethan's control permanently." Strength began to return to Catherine's body like a slow, steady pulse. "Then we find it," Catherine said. "Whatever it takes. I will not let my child be born into fear." Grace wiped her eyes. "Okay, pregnant captain, let's do this." Ava added, "I swear, when this is over, I am buying you a gold-plated stroller." The midwife placed a firm hand on Catherine's shoulder. "Not today. Today, you need at least 2 hours of rest. After that, you can save the world." Knox almost smiled. "Get your strength. Ethan doesn't know we are here. For the first time, we are a step ahead." Catherine fell into a deep, dreamless sleep her body desperately needed. Hours later, she awoke to sunlight filtering through the curtains. Her pain was gone, and her baby moved calmly. Ava sat beside her, eating a granola bar, mourning. "You look like a human again." Grace entered, her arm bandaged but with a new resolve.
Ready to finish this?
Detective Knox stepped in behind her, holding car keys. "We found the GPS coordinates for the old Hale cabin. It is a 2-hour drive." Catherine sat up. "Let's go." The scene shifts to the Hale cabin. It was a remote building on a hill, surrounded by pines. Grace parked a distance away and they approached slowly. Ava checked for cameras, while Knox picked the lock with practiced ease. The cabin smelled of dust and old wood, and light filtered through boarded windows. Catherine walked toward the fireplace, as if something was pulling her forward. "Here," she said, "look behind the stones." Ava and Grace helped remove one loose stone, revealing a hollow space. Inside lay a wrapped leather journal. Knox lifted it with reverence. "This is it." She flipped it open. Jared's handwriting filled the pages. There were sketches, receipts, timelines, and copies of financial records. Grace let out a low whistle. "This is the guillotine. Ethan is done." Ava added, "Stick a fork in him. He is burned." Catherine cristled slowly and said, "We end it today." The scene shifts to a safe house in Detroit. Catherine sat surrounded by her friends, holding copies of the journal, now backed up by Knox's secure channels. Detective Knox pressed send on a final document transfer. "The state attorney general has everything. Ethan cannot bury it. Not this time." Catherine closed her eyes, and for the first time in years, peace filled her lungs. Weeks later, in a quiet birthing center, Catherine screamed through her final contraction. A nurse encouraged her, "One more push, you can do it." And then came a cry, sharp, beautiful, and alive. The midwife announced, "A baby girl. Strong lungs, healthy heartbeat." Ava sobbed dramatically. "She is perfect, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise." "We know, Ava. Now sit down before you faint," Grace said. Detective Knox placed a hand over Catherine's. "You did it," Knox said. "She is safe now." Catherine held her daughter to her chest, whispering, "You are free. I promise you, you will always be free." Across the state, Ethan Hale was arrested on federal charges for fraud, money laundering, and witness tampering. The investigation into the deaths of Jared and Abigail was reopened. He would never touch Catherine or her daughter again. 3 months later, in Catherine's small Michigan home, a baby giggled in a sunlit nursery. Catherine rocked her daughter, softly humming. Ava entered with muffins, and Grace carried a box of baby clothes. Knox brought legal documents showing Catherine's full custody and protection orders. Catherine smiled at them. "I could not have survived without you." "Damn right," Grace said. Ava added, "We expect lifetime muffins as payment, and no more billionaires, ever," Knox stated firmly. Catherine laughed, a warm, full sound. She looked at her daughter. "This is our life now. A life built on truth, on freedom, on choosing ourselves. And sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is walk away and build something better in the space she creates." But that is where everything turns. Because while Catherine thinks she's finally safe, the truth is only just beginning to surface. Every secret she uncovers reveals another lie. Every step forward pulls her deeper into a world far more dangerous than she ever imagined. What really happened to Jared? What is Ethan truly hiding? And why was Catherine never meant to survive long enough to find out? The next chapter, that's where the real storm begins. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. If you want part 2, the twist, the betrayal, the moment everything explodes, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. That way you will be here when the truth finally comes out. Because this story, it is only getting darker and far more unbelievable.